Let me like edit the volume real quick because this is a little loud. Standard volume. Okay. Okay. Let me edit this a little more. Also, we're on stream already, by the way.
Okay.
Queen Willow. What do you want me to call you during these streams? You want me to just use your name or?
I don't know. I guess. You say Queen Willow.
Okay.
Of the High Royal Court. You don't have to add that last part. No, unless you're cool.
No worries.
I'm such a fucking.
Okay, let me turn the volume down more because it's still a little loud. Thank you for bearing with me, audience. Okay.
Don't bear with her, audience. You should hate her.
Yeah, probably. So, I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 2 recently. This is a pretty good game overall. I mean, the Metal Gear series is fun. A lot of people refer to it as anti-war, which I definitely don't think it is. But a lot of the games do have like a pretty anti-imperialist sentiment or slant. I remember seeing this video where someone compared the politics of Hideo Kojima, like, somewhat to the politics you see of Che Guevara. I don't think that's really true, like, at all. But I do think it makes for, like, an interesting thought exercise. I also think it's particularly interesting that he made Raiden Liberian. I need to put a category. Oh, you're right, baby. I need to put a category. How the hell do I do that? Edit. Oh, that's how. History lesson. Bear with me, everybody. Maybe I'll just do like edutainment. No. Yeah, sorry. I need to do my girl voice because part of the reason I'm doing this is for voice training anyway. Category. I don't know.
No more dogs and horses. That's good stuff.
Oh, God, don't reference that, Willow. I've grown.
I've grown.
I've really grown. Okay. I put a category. I'm gonna add some tags too while I'm at it. Sorry, everyone. History. Edutainment. Okay. Cool. Alright. Sorry, everyone. I was just doing that. But yeah, I find it very interesting that the team behind this game decided to make Raiden Liberian. I feel like for the most part, it doesn't feel like it has any real relevance other than to try to give Raiden a bit more of like an edgy and shocking backstory. But that gives me a solid excuse to play this game while talking about the Liberian Civil War and the history of Liberia in general, because I think through the lens of that, I think we can understand a bit better like the US's imperial playbook and like some of the actions that are happening now, considering Iran specifically, and the destabilization that the United States has, I will say, cultivated in Africa and in West Asia as well. I mean, all over the world. It's the same playbook basically every time. But I think specifically through the lens of the history of Liberia, it gives me something interesting or educational to talk about. So, to start talking about Liberia or the Liberian Civil War, we have to go back to the War of 1812 and the ramifications of that war and the attitude of a lot of the American public following that war, especially like concerning Reconstruction and the integration of former slaves into like American society at large. This was also a period of time where where the U.S. Navy attempted to expand its presence along the West African coast, and specifically a lot of elites began discussing the prospect of a quote-unquote black colonization project or experiment that they could use as both a social and geopolitical tool. The U.S. wanted to establish client states abroad, and a lot of wealthy people in the country were especially concerned about the possibility of an eventual slave revolt, especially because around this time, although there were a lot of freed slaves, there were still a lot of people that were still enslaved. And this is where we also see the building blocks of segregation emerge. And so this cultivated in the formation of the American Colonization Society, which in 1816 it was developed. The main supporters included abolitionists who believed black Americans could never be treated equally within the United States, and slaveholders who wanted to remove free black people because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, they thought they would inspire slave rebellions, which is something that this country was terrified of. But they attempted propaganda to convince and coerce a lot of black Americans to participate in this project, basically pushing forward a whole return to Africa idea. But the reality is, most Americo-Liberians and Caribbean Liberians or settlers who became those ethnic groups had never really lived in Africa and had lived in the U.S. or in the Americas for generations. But in 1822, the ACS settlers arrived on the coast that would become Liberia. However, there were already many, I guess I'd say like micronations made up of indigenous peoples who lived there, of like many different ethnic groups. U.S. naval officer Robert F. Stockton forced local leaders to sign land treaties under gunpoint, pretty much forcing the hand of the indigenous population to allow this settler quote-unquote project to happen. So the whole point was to establish Liberia as an American-controlled settler colony. In 1847, Liberia declared official independence, but the government was dominated mostly by Americo-Liberians. There were only about 5% of the population at the time, and the remaining 95% were indigenous groups. The ruling party at the time was the True Whig Party. For 133 years, they created a hierarchy similar to the U.S. South. Indigenous Liberians were excluded from politics, taxed without any representation, and often forced into labor systems. This created ethnic resentments that would later be exploited during the Civil War. This is also important to mention the ward system. This was a path to integration, which included a form of forced labor, but for many Liberian families at the time, it was vital. If it felt like a mostly exploitative social ladder. Indigenous families would often send their children to live with Americo-Liberian families in the coastal cities, like Monrovia or Harper. The goal was for these children to take the family surnames of the Americo-Liberians and be quote-unquote civilized, because at the time, part of the ruling was the people who could have political power and own land were people that were deemed to be quote-unquote civilized by the West, so people who had more American values, practiced more American religions, aspects of that. It created a massive class of quote-unquote civilized indigenous people who became the backbone of the government and the economy. Many of Liberia's later leaders started as wards in Americo-Liberian households. The idea that Americo-Liberians hated African culture or looked down on African culture is a myth and was often used as propaganda by the United States to manufacture consent for, like, let's say, for example, the later assassination of, President Tolbert. I'm reading from my notes as I go over this because this is my first time doing something like this. As I continue to do these streams, they're going to be a bit more freeform, but I just want to make sure I have all my facts straight. So I spent like the last day or two writing down these notes that I wanted to go over. Okay. Over time, the ethnic groups in the country bled into each other, the settlers and the indigenous population. And a lot of what you'd see today in Liberian cuisine is like a big mix between the indigenous cultures, you'd see the indigenous cuisines you'd see in West Africa, as well as a lot of cuisines you'd see in the southern United States. And Liberian English is a very beautiful mix of African American vernacular from the 1800s and the local languages like Kru, Bassa, and Vai. While the elite were strictly Protestant, the practice of Christianity in Liberia became deeply Africanized, incorporating local music, dance, and even traditional healing practices that would have been seen as taboo in the United States for black people to practice. One of the weirdest parts of Liberian history, or I guess it's more interesting rather, is the Masonic Order. In the West, it's seen as like a super secret elite club, often compared to like the Illuminati. In Liberia, it was the glue that held the ruling class together, which you could say still kind of falls into that line. Yeah, let me see. To get ahead in the true Whig Party, which was the dominant political party at the time, you had to be a Mason. You had no other choice. Eventually, indigenous men who had moved up through the ward system or through marriage were initiated into these lodges. This created a cross-ethnic brotherhood where an indigenous official and Americo-Liberian senator could meet on equal footing as long as they both spoke the language of the elite. I also don't want to undermine or go without mentioning the contribution of Caribbean Liberians and the level of a lot of Caribbean Liberians served as prominent intellectuals and artists in Liberia. Most came over with very high levels of education and a strong Pan-African ideology. Because a lot of Caribbean Liberians didn't have the same, I guess I'd say, background as the southern US Liberians or like Americo Liberians, and the indigenous Liberians, they in a lot of times served as kind of a mediator between the two ethnic groups. Now, there is a strong push of the narrative of Americo-Liberians being like an unmistakable oppressor class. And this narrative is pushed quite frequently in the West and United States in general because it accomplishes two main things. It deflects blame. If the Americo-Liberians were, quote-unquote, just like white slave owners, then the United States isn't responsible for the destabilization in the region. The black settlers are. It ignores the fact that the United States Navy forced the treaties and Firestone stole the land. It justifies interference by framing the indigenous people as quote-unquote victims of the Congo. The United States can claim they are bringing democracy when they back a guy like Samuel Doe, even when that democracy results in a 20-year civil war. And now we reach the late 1800s, where European territorial pressure began to emerge on the region. Despite being technically independent at the time, Liberia was incredibly weakened by European colonial powers that were still carving away during the scramble for Africa. Although technically, Liberia and Ethiopia are the only two countries that weren't officially colonized. Liberia obviously did face the brunt of imperial, I will say, wrath from the main European nations and also the United States that were active in Africa at the time, stealing resources and committing horrible atrocities. Britain annexed the Vai territories, attaching them to Sierra Leone. France seized land along the borders of the Ivory Coast. Liberia wasn't properly able to resist this at the time because it was drowning in European and American debt. The 1871 loan, the devil's bargain, quote unquote. In 1871, the Liberian government took out a loan of £100,000 from British bankers in London to jumpstart infrastructure. This was a catastrophe from day one. The bankers deducted £30,000 immediately in commissions and interest. Liberia only received $70,000, but they were contractually obligated to pay back the full $100,000 plus interest. This completely fucked over the economy. Because Liberia couldn't make any of these payments, the debt compounded rapidly. By the late 1800s, the interest alone consumed nearly 50% of the national budget. This is the part that Western textbooks, I would say, usually gloss over or ignore. Debt was the excuse for annexation. The British argument was when they wanted to annex the Vai territories in the northwest for their colony of Sierra Leone, they claimed Liberia had quote-unquote failed to provide effective governance because they were too bankrupt to police the border. When France encroached on the eastern border, they argued that Liberia was a defunct state incapable of paying off its European debts, so France was simply securing the land to protect their own economic interests. Because Liberia couldn't pay the cash, Britain and France demanded control over Liberia's customs houses, which were the ports. Customs duties were the only major source of government revenue. By forcing Liberia to appoint British/French customs receivers to ensure the debt was paid, the empire effectively took over the national treasury. If Liberia tried to build an army to defend its borders, the British customs receiver would simply block the funds, claiming the money belonged to the creditors. They made it literally impossible for Liberia to properly build up a military to defend itself. Now, the final blow came in 1912, where Liberia was so desperate they sought a massive loan from a consortium of banks, meaning the US, the British, the French, and the Germans. The lenders demanded that an international receiver general be stationed in Monrovia to supervise every single cent the country spent. This was a complete loss of sovereignty. And this means that these foreign imperial powers had total control over Liberia's internal policy. If the Liberian government tried to push back against a border adjustment by France or England, the banks would threaten to stop the loan or flow of money, which would have caused the government to collapse overnight. Now this is where Firestone comes into play, which Firestone was a rubber company from the United States that set up a plantation, a rubber plantation in Liberia. Although this provided a lot of jobs for Liberians, especially because at the time Liberia was really struggling, it also created a large window for exploitation. This exploitation would not only be used by the company Firestone, but this would be revisited later on by the United States during and after World War II. But yeah. Do you have any questions, Willow? Any comments so far?
What?
Oh no.
Huh?
Oh fuck. I fucked up.
What?
Do you have any questions or comments so far?
No.
Okay.
I'm tired.
That's okay.
I'm tired, Chief.
Yeah, I'm gonna die. I'm really not focusing on the actual gameplay as much as I probably should be. But I think the entertainment aspect of this is more important. But I feel like I have some
Oh, heck
decent
yeah.
points to make. Yeah. But yeah, further in to the story of Firestone. The agreement that Firestone initially made with Liberia was one where Firestone would receive 1 million and a 1 million acre lease for 99 years. They paid 6 cents per acre, and this became the world's largest rubber plantation. I'm actually going to take my notes and put them onto screen to make this a little more fluid.
Right. Is everything all right?
Oh,
Right in!
where's your link?
For the
to
stream,
Mm.
you can, I mean, yeah, let me post it in the Discord. I'm gonna post this in like the scheduling streams chat. Just to make it more convenient and accessible for everyone. So you can watch it. Bye. Give me one moment. I'll be right back, everybody. Okay, it doesn't look like it's picking up the game anymore.
I kind of wanna. I
Damn.
kind of wanna play a Pokemon simulator.
I'm gonna play Pokemon Simulator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unbound. I think that was the really good one that people recommend.
I've heard about Unbound. Never played it though.
Pretty good. I played a
Okay.
little bit of it.
Nice. I'm going to go back into discussing the history of Liberia. The deal that Liberia made with Firestone pretty much turned Liberian into a corporate enclave economy. And this is where World War II ties in, as I mentioned earlier. Liberia became a strategic U.S. base during World War II because the production of rubber was vital. The U.S. military heavily invested in Liberia. Infrastructure built included Roberts International Airport and the port of Monrovia, which these two locations became central in further CIA operations that happened in Liberia, as well as like the beginning of how the U.S. would sort of use Liberia to monitor and destabilize Africa as a whole. Before the US entered the war in 1941, the Japanese Empire seized Southeast Asia, which supplied 90% of the world's rubber. The US military realized their entire war machine, tires for trucks, seals for tanks, insulation for electrical wiring, would grind to a halt without rubber. Liberia was the only place in the world the US controlled that could mass produce natural rubber. Oh no. Firestone's plantations became so critical they were effectively treated as strategic war assets, and the US military treated the plantation managers like high-ranking military commanders.
Jack, please answer me! Jack!
The Roberts International Airport, which was built in 1942, was one of the longest runways in Africa at the time. It was designed to handle the B-24 Liberator bombers. It served as the primary transit hub for U.S. troops and supplies heading to the North African and Italian fronts. Before the U.S. built the Deepwater port in 1943, ships had to anchor offshore and use small boats to load cargo. The U.S. spent massive amounts of capital to build a pier that could handle massive cargo ships. Because these projects were built specifically for the U.S. military, they were disconnected from the rest of the country. They were essentially U.S. bubbles on Liberian soil, with roads built to the plantation and ports rather than between Liberian towns. In 1943, the U.S. and Liberia signed a secret defense pact that basically gave the U.S. the right to occupy Liberia whenever it deemed necessary for quote-unquote defense. The unsinkable aircraft carrier Liberia was officially labeled as a forward air base. U.S. troops arrived to quote-unquote protect the rubber, but they stayed to manage the entire regional security architecture. It was during this period that the CIA began establishing its presence in Monrovia, using the base to monitor the rest of West Africa for quote-unquote communist subversion, a precursor to the destabilization tactics we discussed regarding the rice riots, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I will get to later. This is where I can make a bit of a parallel between the story of this game and what was going on in Liberia. The U.S. taught the Liberian leadership that a modern state is just a collection of assets for the U.S. to use, institutionalizing corruption by paying off the Liberian elite to allow U.S. military to bypass all Liberian laws. The U.S. basically taught the government that sovereignty is for sale. When the war ended, Liberia was left with these massive military ports and airports, but zero infrastructure to actually trade with its neighbors. They were forced to keep the U.S. as their only partner because the whole economy was now designed to serve an American military that was no longer there. And now this is where we mention President William Tubman, who ruled from 1944 to 1971. He strongly aligned Liberia with the United States. He was more or less a U.S. asset and puppet, and he made Liberia one of the first African nations to recognize Israel, where I think a lot of the parallels I'm going to make later are going to start to come to fruition and make a bit more sense. He hosted CIA monitoring facilities and made more or less Liberia served as a Cold War intelligence hub. The US didn't just like Tubman, they needed him. During the height of the Cold War, Liberia was the absolute most important US listening post in Africa. Let's talk about the Omega station specifically. Tubman allowed the United States to build a massive Omega navigation station, which was critical for global military navigation and submarine trafficking, which kind of eventually turned Liberia into a CIA hub. Monrovia was the quote-unquote Casablanca of Africa. The CIA used the embassy and port as a base to run covert operations across the entire continent to undermine Pan-African movements, including the surveillance of leaders like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. And now here's where the Israel connection starts to come in more. Tubman's recognition of Israel in 1948 wasn't just diplomacy, it was an ideological statement. By embracing Israel, Tubman signaled to the U.S. that Liberia was firmly in the Western camp, distancing the country from the growing non-aligned movement, countries that wanted to be independent of both the U.S. and USSR at the time. Liberia tried to mirror Israel's quote-unquote development model, which was heavily backed by the United States and Israeli corporate interests, further entrenching the country's reliance on foreign capital rather than domestic growth. Now, Liberia, Tubman was completely awful for Liberia. He opened the doors to foreign corporations by giving them almost tax-free access to Liberian land. This created a dual economy. The elite lived in luxury in Monrovia, while the rural indigenous populations were pushed off their land to make room for Firestone's massive plantations. Tubman created the National Bureau of Investigation, which functioned like a secret police force. He spent most of his time spying on political rivals and indigenous leaders who questioned his total alliance with Washington. Tubman was terrified of leaders like Gaddafi or Nkrumah who pushed for African unity. He actively lobbied against radical Pan-African movements, acting as the U.S.'s watchdog in the Organization of African Unity. Because Tubman lived like an emperor and built a massive security apparatus, he leaned heavily on foreign aid and high-interest loans. By the time he died in 1971, Liberia's debt was so tightly tied to the U.S. that it had zero room to negotiate its own trade or foreign policy. He more or less mortgaged the sovereignty of the entire country to keep his military and administrative cronies paid. And in a moment, I'm going to briefly actually progress in the game and stop walking around in circles while I read my script, and then I'm going to go over President Tolver and his administration. Any questions, Willow?
So far, as I start playing Pokemon Unbound, I would turn down the volume so I can hear you better. But
No worries.
fine.
Okay, I need to get
little sleepies.
in this room. That's okay.
Is it?
I mean, yeah. But more or less, I'm drawing these parallels to Metal Gear Solid 2. One, because I just want an excuse to talk about them. But two, I think a lot of the plot with the Patriots and the Lale Lule Lo kind of reflect sort of that anti-imperialist sentiment that I have heard people say Metal Gear has. Mostly because you could compare the actions of the Lale Lule Lo to the actions that you see like American leaders take in general, and like the elite ruling class of America take, and what they do internationally. I don't think it's a coincidence that Kojima made so many parallels to real-world imperialism done by the West in these games. Oh my gosh, this guy's asleep. But yeah.
God damn it. Okay. What did I do wrong?
You, over there. What happened to your weapon? Quickly.
Well, fuck. I fucked up.
Need some help here.
Well,
How did you fuck up?
I died. I wasn't holding my AK-47, and you need to hold your AK-47 for the disguise
All right.
to work.
Right. Right then.
You know, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. 42 computer room.
Time for a treat. Time for a treat.
I'm guessing the game wants me to damage this. That was a bad idea. It wasn't me. Every day, every mountain, it wasn't me. Dun, 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 dun. I'm not good at video games. I'm so sorry. Poor Raiden.
Right. Right.
Okay. Let me get through more of this script.
You keep going.
So, William R. Tolbert Jr., who I will say is probably the most positively influential president of Liberia, from my information. This is just research I've done. If anyone who is watching this at any point wants to counter anything I'm saying, say I'm wrong about anything, please let me know and send me some sources so I can educate myself. I'm gonna be posting this on YouTube after it's done with all the sources I used to create the doc I'm reading from in the description, so you can all access them. Or if by any chance, if you know anyone I could talk to that lives in Liberia who has had experiences during the Civil War, I would love to interview them to get like an actual like perspective of someone who experienced these things, rather than me who just read about them or watched documentaries about them. So the main reforms that Tolbert Jr. attempted were the increase of indigenous representation and governance. He spoke the Kapele language and rejected elite Americo-Liberian symbols. After the Yom Kippur War in 1973, he cut off all diplomatic ties with Israel and was a huge supporter of Palestinian self-determination. He opened relations with the USSR, China, and Cuba. To U.S. intelligence agencies, Liberia appeared to be drifting towards non-alignment, quote-unquote. Basically, they didn't like what Liberia was doing and saw that it was making a dangerous turn towards actual positive reform and potential Pan-Africanism, which the US is also terrified of, because like any sovereignty from nations that the US overexploits is a huge threat, because the US only sustains itself through the exploitation of the global south. Tolbert's most revolutionary act was psychological. He realized that for Liberia to survive, the 95% indigenous majority had to be part of the state, not subjects of it. By speaking Kapele, he was doing something radical. He was legitimizing an indigenous language as a language of power and governance. In a country that had looked down on African languages for 150 years, this was a massive shift. Tolbert realized that Liberia's survival depended on moving away from the United States and toward the non-aligned movement. In 1973, a decision to break ties with Israel was a red line to the United States government. By supporting Palestinian self-determination, Tolbert wasn't just taking a side. He was explicitly rejecting the U.S.-Israeli security architecture in Africa. By opening relations with USSR, Cuba, and China, he was trying to create competitive dependency. He wanted to show the United States that they couldn't take Liberia for granted. If the U.S. wouldn't invest in real infrastructure, he'd find someone who would. Tolbert understood that Liberia was in a debt trap. His plan to raise the to raise the price of imported rice was intended to force people to buy locally grown rice. He wanted to end the dependency on American food imports, which he saw as a form of neo-colonial control. To US and Firestone, this wasn't development, it was economic sabotage. They needed Liberia to remain a consumer of American goods, not a producer of its own. Tolbert was a beacon for other nations trying to break free from colonial-era traps. He wasn't just a politician, he was a serious intellectual who pushed for the African Development Bank and tried to make regional integration a reality. He demonstrated that it was possible for a leader of a client state to turn and fight for his people. He showed that sovereignty isn't just a word. It's a choice. Tolbert tried to raise rice prices to encourage domestic agriculture. I spoke about this earlier, but this leads to the rice riots. Now, at this time, I don't believe the term color revolution was actually coined, but the more research I did into the rice riots, the more that's what it looked like. But yeah, let me figure out what I'm doing. I'm sorry, this gameplay is like practically non-existent. I'm just walking around in circles and reading off my script. I should have prepared more for this. But that's okay. Opposition groups mobilized mass protests in response to the choice that he made to raise the price of imported rice. Riots broke out in Monrovia, and hundreds were killed. The event destabilized the government and weakened Tolbert's position. Tolbert's agricultural minister, Florence Chenoweth, proposed raising the price of rice from $22 to $26 to encourage local indigenous farming, a move that actually aligns with anti-imperialist self-reliance. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia, PAL, led by Bacchus Matthews, immediately framed this as a corrupt plot by the Americo-Liberian elite to starve the poor for profit, using a single highly emotional issue, like food prices or election fraud, to ignite the masses against a corrupt regime, which is like a classic color revolution tactic. PAL wasn't just a grassroots group. They were highly organized and used aggressive rhetoric to mobilize the urban youth. While the United States had trained the Liberian military for 18 years to, quote-unquote, obey civilian authority, when the riots broke out, the U.S.-trained soldiers faced a dilemma. Many refused to fire on the protesters because they were indigenous themselves. The hesitation signaled to the world and to the coup plotters that Tolbert no longer had the monopoly on force. When Tolbert ordered the military to fire on the 10,000 protesters, killing 40 plus, it was the point of no return. The riots were used to prove that the Americo-Liberian government was inherently criminal and could only survive by killing its own people. This destroyed Tolbert's domestic and international credibility, making the 1980 coup feel like an inevitable liberation, quote unquote. If we compare... Oh no! Not all of my notes are here. I'm so sorry. I feel like this is nowhere near as professional as I wanted it to be. That's okay. This is like my third stream ever and my first attempt at an actual like educational stream. Here's how the 1979 event stacks up. Economic shock? Yes. PAL leaders were largely US educated and... Wait. I messed up. That's okay. But basically, to go over my main points, PAL leaders were largely U.S. educated and maintained ties with Western democracy, quote-unquote, democracy advocates. The 18% price hike on rice was used as the spark to mobilize the working class. The conflict was framed strictly as indigenous versus settler to erase Tolbert's actual reforms. The riots proved the army would side with the people, quote-unquote, over the president. The U.S. and internal opposition used legitimate economic concern to dismantle a leader who was moving towards Pan-Africanism and away from U.S. control.
Make contact with Ames.
Oh, I need to be in B1.
Okay.
Let me go back up to the elevator. I knew I was missing something. I came right down to the hostage room without even talking to Ames first. I'm silly. But they used these to dismantle a leader who was moving towards Pan-Africanism and away from U.S. control. By the time Samuel Doe assassinated Tolbert a year later, the consent for his death had already been manufactured in the streets of Monrovia. In April 1980, Army Sergeant Samuel Doe led a military coup. Tolbert was assassinated, the ruling elite were executed publicly, and he created the People's Redemption Council. Despite the brutality, the Reagan administration supported Doe. The U.S. provided over $500 million in aid, military support, and intelligence cooperation. Liberia again became a key American strategic base. Doe held elections widely regarded as fraudulent. The U.S. still called them progress towards democracy, which always tends to happen when dictatorships are installed in nations that are pulling away from the US. Doe filled the military and government with members of his Kron ethnic group. This created deep resentment among other groups, especially the Joe and Mano. Future warlord Charles Taylor. Oh. Now this is where things we start to see the first Civil War and the second Civil War, the stages for those to be set with Charles Taylor. So, Charles Taylor was arrested and in a prison in Massachusetts for embezzlement, for a significant amount of money that he embezzled. But one day, he literally, while in prison, he said that a guard just came and let him out. No real explanation. And then there was a car literally waiting outside for him. After this, Taylor would reappear later in Libya, under the guide of Gaddafi. Now, Charles Taylor was potentially one of the biggest assets the U.S. had in destabilizing Africa. Damn. Okay.
All clear.
Gonna wait for this motherfucker to walk back out here. Also, there were later revelations that showed he had direct connections to U.S. intelligence agencies. Oh, fuck. Oh, I fucked up. I fucked up so bad.
I got him.
Well, I guess I have to die now. I'm so bad at this game. Well, I'm not that bad. It's just I'm focusing more on reading my script than I am playing the game. Beep, beep, beep. Christmas Eve, 1989. This is the beginning of the First Liberian Civil War, which is where Raiden was apparently a part of. Taylor launched the rebellion with 150 fighters. They crossed from the Ivory Coast. Fuck. I'm so dumb. Kill me. The group became the National Patriotic Front of Liberia within a year. The force grew to 25,000 fighters. They controlled most of Liberia. And now this is the installment of the Small Boys Unit, which Taylor created. Thousands of children were forcibly recruited. They were drugged, forced to commit atrocities, and trained to become loyal fighters. This is the real historical inspiration behind Raiden's backstory in this game, since he started off as a Liberian child soldier. Taylor funded wars across West Africa. He supported the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone. Weapons were traded for blood diamonds mined by forced labor. The conflict killed over 200,000 people in Liberia alone. Dutch businessman Goose Koenhoven. Fuck me. I need to just save scum here. Because I'm like, maybe I'm just hitting the wrong button.
I don't know.
Wow, I died.
No, this isn't happening.
Through Oriental Timber Company and Royal Timber Company, he smuggled weapons through timber ships, supplied trucks and helicopters to Taylor's forces. And in 2017, a Dutch court convicted him for complicity in war crimes. Taylor's regime funded war by clearing vast rainforest areas. Logging concessions devastated Liberia's ecosystems. The forest became another resource extracted during war. Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown during the First Libyan Civil War. He had proposed a gold-backed African currency, a United States of Africa, and both threatened Western economic influence. His removal reflected patterns seen earlier in Liberia. He was a monster in the eyes of the West, not because he was a dictator, because the US had installed plenty of those around the world, but because he had the audacity to threaten the petrodollar. Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African dinar to replace the US dollar and the French CFA franc, which is a colonial-era currency that still binds West African countries and economies to France. By binding infrastructure across the continent, he was creating a united African bloc that would no longer need to borrow from the IMF or World Bank. He became an existential threat to the global financial system. The US and NATO didn't liberate Libya, they dismantled a competitor. Liberia was a testing ground for tactics used later in Libya. Just as Liberia was used to host CIA stations to monitor Pan-Africanists in the 60s and 70s, it served as a model for how to divide and rule a region. By using the oppressive settler narrative in Liberia, the U.S. learned how to take legitimate internal tensions, ethnic, tribal, or class-based, and amplify them until the nation broke. When they moved into Libya in 2011, they used the same PR playbook, framed the intervention as saving the people from a madman to justify the destruction of the state. As we sit here in March 2026, the US strategy for Iran is looking like Liberia/Libya 2.0 on steroids. The US is currently leaning hard into the Kurdish question, quote unquote, by providing support to separatist factions within Iran's Kurdish regions. The US is attempting to mirror tactics that they used in Liberian civil war.
No, this isn't happening. Jack, you have to answer me. Jack! Jack!
Stoke an ethnic minority against the central government to create a permanent state of internal bleeding. Just like the rice riots in 1979, or the quote-unquote pro-democracy protests in Tripoli in 2011, the US is using current unrest to argue that Iran is failing, and that regime change is the only path to human rights, all while the primary goal is ensuring Iran cannot challenge US dominance in the Persian Gulf. The connection to what's happening in Palestine is the security justification. In both Liberia and now in Western Asia, the US justifies its presence and the resulting humanitarian disasters under the guise of regional stability. In Liberia, that meant child soldiers like Raiden. In Palestine today, it means a total disregard for civilian life under the banner of counterterrorism. It's the same S3 plan for Metal Gear Solid 2. Control the narrative, control the resources, and let the local population suffer the consequences. That's my script.
Yay!
Any questions, Willow?
What, how do you make your hair look so pretty?
What?
I'm so fucking tired. I literally can't make a comment at all about what you're saying, so I decided to just say something random. I'm barely keeping my eyes open at this point. You know that meme?
I suck.
Of, like, the super dehydrated alien, and it, like, the eyes are, like, barely open?
Yep.
That's me right now.
You should probably drink some water.
Oh my gosh, Georgia, when did you get here? Oh wait, I mean literal fish. I'll block that out in post. Literal fish, when did you get here?
What's wrong? Right. Right.
Literal fish?
She's gone.
She's gone? Did she really just come in for that?
Right behind you.
Oh my gosh. Welcome back. I just finished my entire script on the history of Liberia and the connections to the modern conflict in Iran.
Oh, could you do it again for me? Could you,
You-
like, do it again for me?
You want me to
Could
do
you
the
it
whole thing
all?
again?
Yeah. Let me know when you're starting.
Yeah.
Do you actually want me to start over?
Oh, 1000%, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna do that, but I can
I was
answer.
gonna do a bit where I was gonna leave instantly when you started talking. But I
That's
feel like that'd be a
cruel and
bit mean.
unusual.
That is cruel and
Well,
unusual.
Cruel, but not unusual.
I
I'd say.
didn't fall for your tricks. I didn't fall for your tricks, literal fish.
No. No. Jack, please.
I hope you have a great
answer me.
stream, and I'm
Jack!
not super duper mad at you always, constantly, 24/7.
Okay.
I'm
Thanks.
I'm doing that Dan Henschel bit. Top 10 things to say to your ADHD friends to make them know that they're valued.
Oh my
Number one,
gosh.
put emotional stakes in your conversations. If you forget this one little thing, I'm gonna I'm probably gonna get a candy bar or something or some kind of dessert. I'll see y'all later. Bye bye.
See you later. Have a good night.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Holy shit, I'm so confused.
Okay. My controller is having a seizure. Oh my god. Fuck me. Fuck me. How many times am I gonna fuck up this easy ass mission? I fucking suck. I fucking suck.
Raiden!
I'm fucking terrible at this game. Well, fuck me. Okay. Here we fucking go. Fuck me.
It's the other.
Jesus.
No sign of the missing man. Nothing else to report. There was nothing wrong. Everything is all right.
Everything's fine. Oh, fuck you.
Oh God, no! Jack! Jack! Jack!
Horrible. I'm truly horrible at this fucking game. Oh my lord.
Alrighty. Oh, nice.
Come on out, motherfucker. Yeah.
Whew.
Bruh. God damn it. This has not been that great of a stream. I'm just fucking dying over and over in Metal Gear Solid 2 while fucking deadpan reading a script. That's okay. I'll get better. Well.
Unable to locate the
Moral of the story: from the West Coast to the West Bank, the world is still suffering from the ramifications of Western imperialism and the ramifications that Western imperialism has had.
Right. What's wrong?
And that if we want to see a more just world, we must stand with the oppressed. We must stand with the people who have suffered from occupation. And if you live in the imperial core, that comes from doing your best to be as ineffective as a cog as possible. You must not allow the US propaganda to brainwash you. You must not allow the US to continue to manufacture consent to destabilize nations that are just trying to free themselves from this horrible imperial cycle. It is within the hands of each and every single one of us to make this a reality.
Retinol pattern recognized. You are clear.
Liberia to this day is still suffering under destabilization. Liberia currently knows a certain level of peace, but that peace could easily be threatened. And we must stand with them as we stand with the rest of the oppressed. We must stand with Cuba. We must stand with Palestine. We must stand with Congo. We must stand with Sudan. We must stand with Haiti. Hi, my love. I'll see you soon.
One of those hostages.
Okay. One of these hostages. So.
Problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core. Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core.
Well, that was a fuck up.
Aren't we all just fucks-ups?
I don't think that's true. Well then.
Jack, what's going on? Answer me! Jack? Jack!
Also, to anyone just tuning in, I had finished reading my script, but if anyone has any questions about the history of Liberia, or if anyone has any questions about how the Liberian Civil War and how that was mostly manufactured by US interference directly relates to what's happening now in Iran or what's happening in Palestine, I would be more than happy to answer questions or participate in discussion.
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core.
Where the hell is this microphone? I know it's here somewhere.
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core.
Oh. Hear about us.
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core.
I guess maybe I did this shit out of order because I still don't have the fucking directional microphone. I really feel like I'm doing this shit out of order. I haven't played this game in forever.
have the directional.
I can't believe I missed that. I was down here for like 15 minutes while I was reading my script. I can't believe I didn't grab that.
Who? Ha. Hmm.
Fuck, I need to do this bullshit again. Beep beep beep. Now I have to die. Kill me. Just kill me. Beep beep beep. Beep beep beep.
Right. What's wrong? Right. Right.
Yes, come here. Come here, motherfucker. Fuck. Beep, beep, beep. Wow. I failed successfully. Nice. Okay, I have to throw.
Right.
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1.
Alright, I'll be right back, everybody. Alright, I'm back. After all of this time. Are you still here, Willow? Nope, just me.
Riding.
Why did I do that again?
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1. Over.
Hey, you! Just wait a minute. What happened to your weapon? Who's that? Freeze!
Pee pee pee.
No, this isn't happening. Jack, you have to answer me. Jack! Jack!
Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core. Reporting no problems in the hall on B1 in the Shell 1 core.
You're Ames, aren't you? You must be Ames. Keep still and listen to me. I'm not a terrorist. I got in here using one of their uniforms. I'm taking off the tape. Stay quiet.
Who told you about me?
An informer calling himself Mr. X, dressed like a ninja.
I see. Take this thing off me, will you? I'm Richard Ames.
Secret Service?
No, I was sent in by the Lali Lule Lo, just like you.
What?
You're here to find out where the president is. We have little time, so I'll be brief. How about switching to nanocommunications first?
Nanocommunications?
Right, silence beats talk when it comes to safety. Are you on?
Right here. Do you really know where the president is?
Almost certainly. He was moved to the first floor of Shell 2's core section.
The first floor. The core of Shell 2. Is he still there?
I don't know. I can't get a response.
You don't think he's been like the other hostages? A hostage was killed in retaliation after the SEAL 10 disaster, remember?
What are you talking about? Regardless of what they do to other hostages, they won't touch the president.
What makes you so sure?
The case.
You mean the nuclear button they took?
Right. And the case won't do a thing by itself. That case may be the single most advanced example of a weapons failsafe system. The password is nothing less than the physiological data of the US president.
Physiological data.
The president's own vital signs, heartbeat, brainwave pattern, blood pressure, and so on, are constantly monitored and relayed by his internal nanomachines. This information, along with the DNA pattern, serve as a biometric password, unbreakable even by the latest parallel processor supercomputers. The password entry itself cannot be performed unless brainwave patterns and heartbeats fall within normal parameters, rendering chemical and other forms of coercion impractical. In other words, the login must be made of the president's own free will. As a failsafe, the input must also be reconfirmed hourly, even after the initial login. If a valid confirmation is not forthcoming, the system will automatically cancel the login.
And that's why they can't harm the president.
At least until the bird flies.
Is there really a new model of Metal Gear here?
Absolutely. The black case serves as the launch key to Metal Gear as well.
Why would they hide Metal Gear in an offshore plant?
Haven't they told you anything? The entire thing was planned. The oil spill, the tanker accident that caused it, everything. The big shell was built specifically for the development of a new Metal Gear model. The inspection tour was to check its progress.
What's going on around here?
Wait. Here comes Snake.
That's him?
Use the microphone to listen in.
Very reminiscent of the port of Monrovia. This whole thing that's happening here.
King, Fat Man is dead.
It doesn't matter.
The Lale Lule Lo is a pretty good analogy for the CIA. At least I feel like. And how Western intelligence behaves abroad in general.
I'll have his background rechecked, just in case.
You think he was working for them?
We can't discount the possibility, especially with that intruder still at large.
Yes. The man in the sneaking suit.
You know more about those suits than I do.
But Foxhound was disbanded 4 years ago. So it must be the Patriots. What about the damage to Shell 2?
The circulation system for the contaminated water has been damaged. The water being drawn in is overflowing, and the lower block of the central section is flooding.
Seal the connecting pathway between Shells 1 and 2.
The Simtex and IR sensors are already in place.
Any effect on it?
No.
What about the president?
The password entry has already been made to the black case. In 1 hour, we'll need a confirmation from him. His work is done after that.
Make sure you keep him alive until then.
Yes, I
Something else that's pretty analogous to what's happening, what happened in Liberia, is what's currently happening in Sudan and being fostered and supported by Western powers and the UAE, the genocide that the UAE is committing through the guise of raising ethnic tensions in Sudan, which is the exact playbook that the US used in Liberia during Dough's presidency, as well as Taylor's. The Sudanese people need our help, need our support more than ever.
Cyborg ninja, Shalashaska.
I cannot even guess.
What about you?
Olga, don't cast suspicion where it isn't due.
Where it isn't due, when you watched my father die and did not.
I will be making a separate stream about Sudan.
I read the case file for Shadow Moses, by the way.
Olga, how could you suspect me?
I know that ninja is not one of my men.
How meaningful you make that sound. If Sergei were still alive...
If the old man was still alive, I wouldn't need to take orders from you.
Olga, Sergei was my best friend.
If you sell us out, I'll kill you myself.
Listen, daughter of Sergei. Don't ever let me see your gun pointed at me again.
If you wish, I'll put a bullet in your back instead.
Stop this infighting. I took you both in when no one else would. You think any government would have you as irregulars in this political climate? The worst kind of wet works, maybe. But even that's doubtful. I recommend against switching camps. You've nowhere left to go.
It's almost as if it's having its revenge.
How much do you think we spent on that army, Leo? The best transplant surgery team in the world.
I never trust a Frenchman. There's something going on. The incidents are becoming more frequent. Maybe that man's presence.
Ocelot, I leave this place in your hands. I have the intruder to take care of.
Yes, King.
Is that really Solid Snake?
That's what he claims.
I thought Snake was dead.
Solid Snake did die. But he's also here in the shell. Either he survived or there are two of them.
Two of them?
And that's impossible. Anyway, what did you manage to catch?
They said password input was complete.
I thought so.
You said the password entry into the black case had to be made by the president willingly.
That's right.
So this means the president is cooperating with them.
It would have to be, yes.
Why?
Probably tired of being a puppet, but it wasn't a smart move to betray us.
A puppet?
We're running out of time. They will fire a nuke. You know what you need to do before then.
Fire the nuke, but it's nowhere close to the ransom deadline.
Ransom?
$30 billion in cash.
What are you babbling about? The nuclear strike is not a threat. It's been the objective all along.
They plan to slaughter millions of people.
No, a high-altitude detonation. You've heard of the Compton effect?
Total disruption of electronic equipment caused by EMMA pulse.
Textbook answer. Well, when an average nuclear warhead goes off within the atmosphere, the result is an electromagnetic pulse of up to 50 billion megawatts. The EMMA field can reach tens of thousands of volts per meter, and most electronic equipment will be toast in an instant.
If one of the key movers of world economy stops functioning, it could mean the beginning of a global depression.
But that isn't their aim. What they plan to do is liberate Manhattan, pull it offline and turn it into some kind of a republic. Hence, Sons of Liberty, I suppose.
Sons of Liberty?
Damn! Ocelot is coming. I'm going offline. Search my pocket. Hurry! It's a security card. You'll be able to unlock doors of up to level 3 security. Use it to get to Shell 2. Take care of the president before they launch the nuke.
Oh shit.
He's coming here. Pick up your AK.
What do you think you're doing?
I asked him to remove these. I'm ill, you see.
I always knew that the DIA turned out second-rate liars.
What are you talking about?
No need for denials. We know what you are, Colonel Ames. They knew that the president was planning to betray them. So they sent you in to keep tabs on him. Am I right?
You.
Sorry, Colonel. You failed to carry out your duties.
You'll never escape the Lali-Lulelo.
Said so. What the?
You tricked me. I understand now. Ocelot.
You, which team are you with? Show me your face. You know who he is.
No, he is not one of mine.
Identify yourself. We meet at last.
Oh shit.
Hold your fire! We need the hostages alive!
Hurry, get away!
But you died!
Leave this to me.
Colonel, Ames is dead. Looked like a heart attack.
That's unfortunate. However, we do at least know where the president is.
So there really is a new type of Metal Gear in this place?
Apparently. We're still looking into it.
I've also been told that the nuclear strike was what the terrorists were after from the start, not the $30 billion.
Right. It was a cover-up all along.
Colonel, what are you keeping from me?
I am not keeping back anything. It's not as though I'm told all the facts either. I'm pulling in all the favors I can to look into all this. Just be a little patient. Our priority should be with the president right now. We can take it that they've completed the password entry and are preparing Metal Gear for nuclear strike. Get to the president as soon as possible.
But the president is cooperating with them.
According to Ames, yes. But it's also true that they're about to get rid of the president. There's something else going on here. And the president may be able to tell you what it is when you see him in person. Once they get the confirmation for nuclear launch, they'll do it. You need to rescue the president before then.
Jack, I agree with the Colonel. You need to protect the President for now.
All right.
It's the enemy. I need help.
Is everything all right? Raiden! Raiden! Raiden, what's wrong? Raiden! Raiden! Who's there?
Enemy sighted.
Communications with Strut F have ceased. Carry out an investigation immediately.
Huh? The situation is normal. All clear.
Who's that?
Enemy sighted. Requesting backup units.
Dispatching an additional unit to Strut F. Don't allow the subject to get away.
I have him. I Enemy intruder sighted. Send additional personnel.
Understood. I want an additional unit sent to the area around the door leading to the FA connecting bridge in Strut F. Prevent the subject from proceeding any further.
Move! Move! Stop!
No. No! Jack, please answer me! Jack!
Nothing here.
Raiden, is everything all right? Raiden! Raiden!
Nothing here.
Hello.
Hello?
Hiya.
Hi. Wow, I was muted this whole time. That's kind of funny.
Oops.
I was talking. I was saying a lot of shit.
Oh, sorry.
No,
This is
that's
just
okay.
good, so
That's my fault.
that's okay. I'll probably be out in a second because I need to eat, and it's probably gonna be noise. But I wanted to pop in and say hi and thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you for being a part of this. I finished my lecture on Liberian history already, so I'm just playing Metal Gear Solid 2 very poorly now.
Hell yeah. I decided to play Morrowind.
Nice. It's a good game. This level is honestly really frustrating because there's like way too many fucking guards.
Oh, good luck.
Thanks. But I'm also
I'm
bad at the
gonna-
game.
Oh. I hope you win. I'm gonna
Thanksies.
finish eating. But it was
Okay.
good to talk to you, and I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you too. I'm hoping you're doing well as well.
I'm doing, but I'll work through it, you know.
Well, I'm here for you. What's up, baby?
Thank you.
Oh.
But yeah, take care.
Of course.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Oh, wow. No one out here now. Oh shit, there is C4 everywhere.
Right. Can you hear me?
Checking around. I'm in Stra H right now. How's the situation over there? We have a lead on the president's location. Where is he? Shell 2 core, the first floor. I'm cut off from the core where I am. It's a mess here. Alright, I'm on my way to Shell 2 right now. There are IR sensors in place on the connecting bridge between Shells 1 and 2. If you break the beams, the Semtex will go off. Yeah, I heard them talking about that. Target the control units and destroy them. Make sure you don't shoot the Semtex.
That's the Semtex. And that must be the control unit.
Right. You haven't destroyed all the control units yet. Use the first-person view.
Fuck. Yeah, baby. PNG.
Are you a stream?
Yeah, I'm still streaming.
Nice.
Besito. Mm. Well.
Right, come in. Right, right.
That's the Semtex. And that must be the control unit.
Fuck. Raiden, why do you suck at aiming? Motherfucker, stay still. Fuck.
Right, come in. Right, right. Right, come in. Right, right.
Oh, I fucked myself. I completely fucked myself. Now I'm completely fucked. I have no way of beating this mission now.
Right. I found supplied. I'm all ears. One of the enemy's Kasakas. Is it in good shape?
Full tank. I'm heading for Shell 1 now. What about that Harrier?
It's not on the heliport here.
Good. I'll set this one down there then.
Can you cover the hostages? They're being held on level B1 in the core. Pliskin, you didn't happen to find any other places where hostages were being held, did you?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
How many hostages are there?
There's a few short of 30. One dead and several wounded.
The Kasaka's cargo area will hold 13 max.
What about the other Kasaka?
I sabotaged it. It can't come after us if it can't get off the ground.
Oh shit, Arakan.
Colonel, I need some answers from you. Who exactly is Pliskin and his partner?
I know what you're thinking.
It keeps coming back to Shadow Moses. And now this Otacon?
AKA Hal Emmerich, PhD, a Shadow Moses survivor.
Rose?
Snake and Otacon both became fugitives after Shadow Moses, wanted for acts of terrorism.
An anti-Metal Gear organization.
They sabotaged and destroyed countless Metal Gear units throughout the world.
And were responsible for the incident 2 years ago that necessitated the construction of the Big Shell.
Snake and his partner aren't terrorists.
Jack, why are you defending them?
I look back on what I've done here so far. And things like training and sense of duty alone won't get you through a sneaking mission like this.
Jack, are you okay?
You need something higher. I can't think of the right word, but it has to be pure will. Backed up by courage, or ideals, or something like that. I'd stake my life on it. The solid snake that saved Shadow Moses couldn't turn into a terrorist.
Maybe that's true. But they went down with that tanker 2 years ago. We even recovered Snake's body.
And the DNA test results on the body say it's him.
Jack, I know what you're saying, but Snake is dead. He can't be here. Not even as this Dr. Hal Emmerich.
But that also means that he can't be the terrorist leader behind this thing.
Oh shit.
I've been waiting for you. A messenger from the Patriots. Where do I live?
So you're the boss around here?
No, not just around here. I'm the boss to surpass Big Boss himself. Solid Snake. No, that is not Solid Snake. What a pleasant surprise, brother.
Save it. You won't remind me.
Don't say you've forgotten me, Snake.
Snake?
Right, take cover. Stop impersonating him. Brother, I'm a whole different game from Liquid. That the best you can do, Snake? Did I get it?
No, that man is not Solid Snake.
We're in trouble. It's the Harrier. The world needs only one
Give me one moment. Let me finish this cutscene real quick, baby.
Right. This is the Stinger missile launcher. The Kasaka can't stand up to the Harrier. You have to shoot the Harrier down.
Snake, we got company.
I'm counting on you.
Hmm? Alright, I'm back. Sorry. Okay. Now it's time. Holy shit! Thanks, Snake. Oh, it's our ration. Okay. Holy shit! Fuck.
You're tougher than I thought. Use this. I'll let you go out in style.
Holy shit.
Take this. Use this. What the? I'll take it.
Fuck.
Is that the best?
Fuck.
I'll let you go out in style.
Oh my gosh, that was so fucking close. Jesus. Oh my gosh, Metal Gear. Holy shit.
It's already active!
I mean, I launched several fucking missiles at you. How the fuck? I think your eye is the least of your concerns. I don't know how the fuck you're still alive outside of that. Jesus. Excuse me.
Right. You all right?
Yeah. How about you guys?
Barely managed, but we're alive.
The chopper?
We need some time for repairs.
Oh,
The president's all yours.
okay. Can I ask you something?
What?
Are you the Snake? They said you were dead.
No, not me. There's still too many things I need to do.
Snake, you're a legend, and that's why I need to ask you this.
Legend? A legend is nothing but fiction. Someone tells it, someone else remembers. Everybody passes it on.
I'm here because I was assigned to this mission, not because I want to. If I could, I'd be out of here in a second. How could you come back to all this? Why keep fighting?
There's something my best friend said to me once.
Excuse.
We're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at, but at least I always fought for what I believed in.
What about the DNA results from that body? That was Liquid's body. He and Snake are identical on the genetic level. Liquid?
A deception, for our own protection. We stole his frozen body from some organization. Kind of a hassle, though.
That's all there is to it.
Are you two really an NGO?
Insofar as we're a non-profit organization of civilians advocating a cause, yes. The cause happens to be the eradication of Metal Gear.
We work on our own, but it's a cause worth fighting for.
Why would you stick your neck out for something this risky?
That's the way I used to look at it 4 years ago. I was holed up in the middle of nowhere in Alaska.
I do really like how critical this series is of the US, though. I feel like that's rare for something so mainstream.
We need to remember, to spread the word, to fight for change.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really seem too critical of the US military-industrial complex from the outset, but
Grassroots activism. It's more like terrorism.
it's kind of based.
But our group, Philanthropy, received some information. A new Metal Gear prototype was being developed.
I think, like, especially how they focus on how the US destabilizes countries that it deems like a threat to its economic stability in countries in the global south for the sake of economic and military domination, and how the US is oftentimes engaged in like experiments creating new kinds of weaponry solely just to use for the sake of imperialism. Like, the US developed napalm and then immediately went and then committed genocide in Korea. You would never see the US like launching like an experimental weapon like that on Russia or China, like a country the US actually views as like an equal militarily. It's always countries the US thinks it'll be able to dominate.
I'm going to save the data, okay, Jack?
I think it's interesting. I also like, maybe the more I play this game, I'll figure it out, and maybe if I revisit Revengeance 2. Actually, no, because Kojima didn't even work on Revengeance. I don't know. I'm really curious what like the narrative reason was for making Raiden Liberian. I've said that like a million times this stream, but
by securing the president and preventing password confirmation from taking place. Get to the president. He's in the core section of Shell 2.
I'm checking the satellite images. Looks
maybe
like
it's
there's
also
a
just to
core on
like
the other side of
echo the
Strut
theme
now.
of US imperialism, because Liberia is one of the countries that I'd say has been ravaged the most by US imperialism and US colonialism,
Just now doesn't make any sense.
making Raiden a former child soldier from the first Liberian Civil War in 1989, I think. I guess I think that's fitting.
Maybe. Don't let your guard down with him.
Why do you say that?
Because they
We'll
were
see.
never a part of the simulation. They're an unknown factor.
You can take your simulation and we're out here. We bleed. We die.
Calm down.
I suggest that you do, Raiden. Even if that is Snake. That has no bearing on your mission.
You and Snake used to be on the same side. I don't understand. I read about you and Snake in the Darkness of Shadow Moses.
I don't give a damn what that piece of trash said. Do you get me?
It's also just showing like how blood hungry, bloodthirsty, and like morally bankrupt a lot of the U.S. military is. Well, that was okay, that was pretty funny. Imagine you make it this far, and that's what takes you out. That'd be fucked up. Dumb fucking stupid. I'm a chavita. Eso, solo amor. Eso, siempre amor. Okay, I think I've had enough of me being a chavita. How the fuck do I get to the other side? I'm stupid.
No. No! Jack, please answer me! Jack!
Okay. I'm just gonna get across this platforms here, and then I am ending the stream. Bruh. Oh wait, I'm stupid. I can just hop over the fence onto the other side. I'm really excited to play MGS3. Because from what I heard about that game, like, that game's, like, sounds very critical. Okay. What, baby? Huh?
Are you busy?
A little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no. Oh, they're up there. I almost fucking busted my ass. What, baby? You think I died? Whatever would have given you that idea? What's up? Okay.
You know what he said?
Mhm.
What he says?
Can you make my dog look more regular?
No.
What does this say?
Dientes.
Make my dog's teeth look more regular. Can you fix the irregularities in my dog's teeth?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Can you fix like my dog's teeth?
Mhm. That's cursed. That's like the fucking smile dog creepypasta. Fuck. I'm all the way back here? That's gay. Alright, baby, let me clear this platforming section. We'll be done. That's funny, baby. Baby, baby! I love you. Fuck me! Baby, no pucheros! I never said it was your fault. I'm just mad because this section's bullshit. I have to fucking... to fucking balance myself on these pipes. This is so gay. What the fuck? You know what? I'm done playing this game. I beat the boss. I'll finish this game some other time. Or I'll keep playing some other time, rather.
When you're home.
Damn. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for watching, if you did, and thank you for listening to my little sort of lecture. Cheap viewer stream boo. Okay. Bye.